Hey everybody, it's Allie, and welcome to our Y&R Chat for Sunday, July 12th, 2020. Whose pool party should I go to? Should I go to Gloria's pool party or should I go to Miguel's pool party? I'm ready. I just got to decide which invite I want to take. I mean, honestly, I think I would have rather hung out at Gloria's pool party with the Abbots, but what I wouldn't give for one of Miguel's famous fudge brownies. I would have been standing at the snack table and I would have secretly snatched the whole tray of fudge brownies and then I would have snuck off somewhere. Miguel would have caught me, like he would have opened up the broom closet and I would have been in there with the entire tray of his famous fudge brownies, like smeared all over my mouth. Just scarfing them down one by one. But I know that my man, Miguel, would have just, like, quietly and slowly backed out of the broom closet and closed the door, never saying a word. Because Miguel knows how to keep a family secret. No one else would ever have to know. It was a lovely day at the Newman Ranch. A lovely day for a pool party in 1999. I mean, the trees were lush and green, the pool was shimmering and shining, and that pool party took place right after Cameron Grimes's Emmy-winning performance as Cassie, where Cassie took the stand and declared her love for the Newman family. And that hallmark moment, by the way, was brought to us in part by Grace and Tony. But Grace and Tony were not at that party. Why? Because Grace had already slept with Nick at that point. She was not exactly welcome at the family party after having the hots for Nick and stopping at nothing to seduce him. Nothing! She finally got her way. She finally got Nick into bed. Nick and Sharon were able to repair things and reestablish their family with Cassie, but Grace was not exactly on the guest list after that. Tony was okay, though. Tony was still all right. Tony was just Grace's ex-boyfriend. He was a bad boy with a heart of gold. By 1999, Grace and Tony were over. Their romantic relationship was over, but they were still kind of friendly. Tony was now dating, secretly, Megan Dennison. This is Keith Dennison's daughter, crazy Trisha Dennison's sister, and Trisha had gone off her birth control pills, gotten pregnant with Ryan's baby, which, by the way, is the exact same way that Sharon got pregnant with Noah. Just a little note there. But Trisha later miscarried her baby, and she just started on the road to crazy town. She became obsessed with Megan and Tony's relationship. And of course, Keith, the father, was right there pushing her right along. Just nobody was happy about this boy from the wrong side of the tracks dating precious Megan. But, I mean, Tony was such a nice guy. We've at this point in the classic episodes seen the two different actors who played Tony. And I guess I tend to like the originals better than the recast, just as a general rule of thumb for my preferences. I like to get used to somebody and get into them. I don't like getting switched around. But the more beefy Tony that we saw on Monday's episode was okay too. He was a sexy mechanic. to work until he became a photographer. Jenna City's Sexy Mechanic Store. Come on down to the Sexy Mechanic Store. We'll fix your car and have sex with you while you wait. Apparently, Tony's boss at the Sexy Mechanic Store. The boss, the owner, was having Tony move stolen vehicles, which Tony was totally unaware of. He didn't know what he was doing. The boss was just having Tony drive cars from point A to point B, and Tony didn't know that they were stolen. And one night, Megan was in the car with Tony. They were just driving one of these hot cars, got pulled over by the cops, and got arrested. So that was why on Monday's episode, we saw Tony receiving that indictment letter in the mail. He later pleaded with the district attorney to have the charges against Megan dropped. He said, all right, fine, take me, but don't take Megan. And the district attorney was so moved by Tony's plea that she ended up dropping the charges against both of them. But that did not stop the Dennison family from hating him and wanting to break up Megan and Tony. Keith Dennison, now the one that we saw on Monday was the recast. I didn't get any personality from him. All I got from him, and of course it's just one episode, but all I got from him was type A, overbearing father. He just didn't want them together, period. Trisha, though, on the other hand, had all kinds of character work going on, and all of the circumstances around her and Ryan's marriage and then her miscarriage, it just caused Trisha to get crazier and crazier. And one night, I want to say it was New Year's Eve, Trisha got into a physical fight with Tony. And she was like hitting him and, like, stay away from my sister. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, she just desperately threw herself at him and started kissing him. So it went from this, like her tearing into him physically to a kiss. I guess that was her last-ditch effort to try to do something to break up the relationship. But all of this pressure to break them up only made, of course, the two lovers want to be together more. So Tony proposed to Megan. They were set to get married, but on their wedding day, Trisha jumps in her car, determined to go out and stop the wedding. She backs out of the driveway blindly, runs over Tony on his motorcycle, and kills him on his wedding day before he could get to the altar. But not to worry. There was a tearful deathbed wedding to Megan. On his deathbed, our very own Tony was able to marry the love of his life. But very sad. It was very sad. Very sad. Goodbye, Tony Viscardi. That was the end. And goodbye, Megan Dennison. After that, she had to leave town. She couldn't even bear to look at her sister after that. To me, there is nothing more American, nothing more apple pie than Gloria prancing around in her pink jumpsuit. Happy 4th of July. She's so pink. Oh, yeah, that was a good moment. Michael was so funny. He's just like watching his mother in the background, being her most glorious self. And he just like harumps in the foreground saying, she's so pink. It was such a like childish, I'm embarrassed of my mother moment that was just wonderful. I mean, that right there should have been enough reason for Y&R to keep her around for decades. Why didn't Y&R keep Gloria around as a leading lady? She was capable of being catty, but silly, and yet totally tender at times. When she approached Sharon at her like most happiest day, just to tell Sharon that she admired her for being so brave and so strong after losing her daughter. That moment had me in tears. And it was hard to go from watching Monday's episode where Sharon was absolutely elated to have reunited her family and to be on the cusp of something new and wonderful for her life right after Cassie's adoption hearing. And then on Tuesday, now here is Sharon mourning Cassie's death. It was just a very stark contrast to see Sharon smiling on Monday, and then on Tuesday she's sitting there alone and despondent at this party. And she never should have been alone. That episode from 2005, that Gloria's 4th of July pool party, aired right at the same time that Nick, Phyllis, and Neil were in Los Angeles trying to hunt down Daniel and Lily, who had run away. We saw that classic episode a few weeks back. It was Nick feeling the need to bring Daniel to some sort of invisible justice for Cassie's death, even though Nick knew that Cassie had told him she was driving that car. Even Nikki, in her scene with Victor at the park, mourning the fact that Cassie was not there for her favorite holiday, Nikki was commenting to Victor by saying, I can't believe that Nick would leave his family right now. He was out seeking this justice, even though Sharon and Noah were still at home at the pool party. I mean, Sharon was leaning on Brad. Like, there was this scene where it's Sharon and her children and Brad. I mean, Brad's sitting there in the spot that Nick should have been in. And by that point, by the way, at that pool party, Sharon had already kissed Brad, because that was another scene from the Los Angeles episode. We had Nick and Phyllis and Neil tracking down Lily and Daniel, and at the same time we had Sharon on the private jet with Brad, having just returned from a business trip where she was apologizing for having kissed him. So this is just, it's all right at that same time, and it's just unearthing all kinds of feelings for me still. It just feels like such a shame that Nick and Sharon, during such a horrific time, couldn't bond together. Instead, Nick felt compelled to run away, and it tore them apart. And it's 15 years later, and I still can't get over that. Also, a couple of weeks ago, when we saw that 2005 episode where Phyllis, Nick, and Neil were hunting down Daniel and Lily in LA, I remember in that episode seeing Drusilla taking a phone call from Neil to get an update on whether or not they'd found the kids. Malcolm grabbed the phone for a while, but notably, I remember seeing Devon in the background of that scene looking sad, looking like he felt left out or something. And so now here we are this week, and I'm able to fill in that blank. Devon had been wanting to find his birth mother, and when he did, he realized that things really weren't that much different than they were the last time he saw her. She was addicted to drugs. And so when he went to see her, I believe that his mother saw that Devon was her son, knew that he looked good, knew that it looked like his life had turned out okay, and I think that's why she was pushing him away. I think she knew that she was toxic, and so she, for his sake, pushed him away and told him to never come back, which in some ways is probably why she left him in the first place, knowing that the kid had a better shot without her. That had to be so heartbreaking for Devon. And the thing is, that had to be so heartbreaking for the Winters family. And I really sensed that. I know that I sound like a broken VHS tape week after week saying this, but I really felt for Drew's position. Drew and Victoria Rowell, she just makes me feel things. And I could feel her position as she was talking to Devon, as he was revealing to her that he had met his mother without her even knowing it. She didn't know that he had secretly done this. She didn't even know that it was on his mind. I mean, Drusilla was too busy being a mother. You know, being a mother to Lily and what she was going through, and also being Devon's mother. And it has to be so hard to love someone as your child, to love Devon as a mother, but still have to accept that Devon has a need to know the woman who gave birth to him, and to make space for that in his life. And I think that it takes a really selfless and fully matured person to do that. And she did. Drusilla did that. Like, she wasn't just this one-dimensional, bratty character. Drew was trying to evolve herself into accepting whatever feelings Devon had and whatever baggage came with Devon. Like, she loved him and accepted him unconditionally, and she was willing to bear the burden of, you know, anything else that came with that. So not only did she accept Devon's decision to go find his mother, but she supported him, and she asked to go with him to meet Yolanda, aka Harmony. That was the name that Yolanda took on later, and I just bet you that it would have frosted Drusilla's cookies to know that after Drew's death, Yolanda, Devon's mom, Devon's drug-addicted mom, managed to transform herself like a butterfly into Harmony. And the sparks were flying, although they were never fully realized. The sparks were flying between Harmony and Drew's man, Neil. We've been bouncing around inside the story of Brittany Hodges for weeks now, and this week we got plopped into another plot point from 2005 when Brittany was pregnant, but the father of her baby was not JT, it was Bobby Marcino, the dance club owner. Now, Bobby's mob ties had gotten them both into trouble, and in fact it had gotten Brittany electrocuted. So there were threats on both of their lives hanging in the air constantly. So being a good friend, JT decided to step in and claim that he was the father of Brittany's baby to make it look like Brittany and Bobby's relationship were over. So that meant that JT had to lead everyone to believe that he was the father of Brittany's baby, he was going to raise together, that they were in a relationship. He could not drop the facade, not even for Mackenzie, who JT wanted to be with. He looked like such a total jerk in those scenes, of course, because Mackenzie is trying to reunite with him, and he was turning her down cold, acting like he had no feelings for her and he just wanted her to go away. But the context there was that JT was just trying to keep up appearances to protect Brittany and her baby's life. And Brittany, being Brittany, certainly had no trouble jumping in to add salt in Mac's wound to help that situation along. I'm such a fan of the Glow by Jabot days. For one reason or another, it just really resonated with me. And the episode from the year 2000 that we saw must have been their very first time filming for the Glow by Jabot project. And it was super lame. I mean, so lame. Who in their right mind would want to sit at home during the summer on their computer watching hot guys and gals sunbathe and play pool golf? Well, a lot of people would like to do that, so it turns out. The year 2000 was, the year of this episode, and it happened to be the same year that CBS debuted a new show called Big Brother. And not only was it a TV show, but they were also debuting the concept of the 24/7 live feeds. These live cameras just watching average, hot, able-bodied, hot-bodied people, just your average hot-bodied people, just watching them doing whatever. Filming them in these so-called real situations and settings in order to promote a product or to sell an advertising, which is really what Y&R, Big Brother, any shows are there for. They're there to sell the advertising. But this was a new concept for the internet. This was right at the dawn of the Web 2.0 surge. This was right at the beginning of this uprising of social media. And the idea was picking up on the very successful authenticity of the MTV's Real World series, which actually had started a decade prior. But that was a little bit different. It was a little less obviously commercialized. Here we are in 2000, though, creating this idea that you can create an internet show, commercialize it, stream it to the internet, and you have a phenomenon, a whole new media, a whole new phenomenon. And a lot of that was thanks, of course, to the help of Jabot's crafty new web genius, Phyllis Summers, paid to creepily cam teenagers and their love woes. But no, she was recently returned to Genoa City and reformed. Phyllis had gone away for a long time. This was in just at the very beginning of her coming back and now being this beautiful leading lady. She'd left the town in disgrace over what had happened to Danny, but now she's back in town. She's a whole new Phyllis, and she's dating Michael. How weird was it to see them kissing? I was kind of into it, though. I mean, I easily could have gone for a Michael and Phyllis pairing for all time, but Michael and Lauren worked perfectly well and perfectly amazing, so I can't complain too much about that. But that really could have gone either way. Phyllis was brought back as this web genius, and this campaign, this Glow by Jabot campaign, was very successful for Jabot. They ran with this theme for the next 2 years. They dumped Rihanna as the fourth wheel. They added in JT and Mac, and even eventually opened up the whole Glow by Jabot boutique, which was later renamed and rebranded as the Fenmore's Boutique. I had completely forgotten that Matt Clark, who we saw and talked about last week, did not die. He was not killed when Amy shot him. No, he had plastic surgery and returned to town in the year 2000 to enact some further revenge on Nick and Sharon. I totally forgot about all of that when we were just talking about him. But then, when I saw the sweet angel face of one Sir Larry Wharton, oh, it all came flooding back to me. Oh, Larry Wharton, be still my beating heart. Larry Wharton was Nick's cellmate when Nick got tossed into prison for shooting and killing Matt Clark, and Larry Wharton tortured Nick relentlessly. He was the stereotypical, guy who's gonna pick on you in prison. And Victor ended up actually breaking up a really brutal fight between Wharton and Nick, and Victor whomped Wharton's butt just in time, and then got Nick out of prison because Amy had confessed to shooting Matt. Well, 3 years go by, Matt and Larry Wharton had crossed paths, and Matt was trying to recruit Wharton to help him frame Nick for selling ecstasy, which is also known as Molly now, but was known as ecstasy at the time, which was also used, by the way, to mass drug everyone at the Grand Phoenix opening party last year. Yes, same drug. Matt's grand plan was to frame Nick for selling some of that. But Wharton had a change of heart. Even though we saw him agreeing to go along with Matt's plan in order to get a little cash, Larry could not go through with it because, okay, wait for it. You're never going to believe this. The reason that man, Larry Wharton, didn't go through with this cha-ching cash plan was because Wharton met little Cassie Newman. And the sheer magic of Cassie's rainbow sunshine power melted Larry's cold con heart and made him change his ways. Is that great or what? Just imagine that guy and little Cassie. Oh, it was something else. I mean, can you even, like, the magic of Cassie, and then you pair that with the totally contrasting personality, like this little sweet, innocent little girl, and this, like, hardened con, and then just meeting them in the middle. Oh my gosh, it was so amazing. Larry then took on this total transformation. He became one of the most awesome characters in Y&R history. It gives me chills just to think about him. I really hope that I get another opportunity to dig deeper into Larry's character and to tell you so much more about him because I have it in me, but I'm going to wait and I'm going to save it for if Larry comes up in a later classic episode. I'm going to save my Wharton chat with my fingers crossed for later. Because I got to get back to Matt Clark, which was the real story here. Matt Clark, who had plastic surgery to look exactly like Fen Baldwin. Did you notice that? That new Matt looked exactly like current day Fen? If you did not notice it, trust me. Go to yrchat.com to see my comparison photo. It is uncanny. Well, when Matt's plan with Wharton didn't pan out, Matt tried to find another accomplice, and guess who it was? Our very own Trisha Dennison. This is sad, though. Matt drugged and raped Trisha, and trying to get her to go along with his whole revenge plans and to get a new accomplice. But when Trisha realized what had happened to her, like she knew they had sex, but when she realized it was because he drugged her, she totally turned on him. She stopped Matt from trying to rape Sharon again. And then Trisha got Matt into her car, drove them both off a cliff, expecting to die. Like, Trisha was thinking, I'm just going to kill myself now, and I'm going to take this guy with me. Drove him off a cliff, trying to kill them both. Trisha survived with just some minor injuries, but Matt went into the hospital and was on a breathing tube. When Nick found out about all of this, the attempted rape of Sharon, and that it was actually Matt Clark, of course, Nick goes to the hospital to confront Matt. And in the ultimate act of spite, Matt Clark ripped out his own breathing tube and killed himself trying to pin his own murder on Nick. Can you believe that? He killed himself just so that he could pin his murder on Nick. Man, that is a whole lot of drama to create over someone who stole your high school girlfriend. I was racking my brain and the internet trying to figure out what exactly was wrong with Olivia in the year 2000. Turns out she had aplastic anemia and she almost died. I had absolutely no memory of this, but Drusilla had been gone from Genoa City at that time. She had taken Lily with her to Europe to pursue that modeling career that Neil was so unsupportive of at first. But Drew came back to town briefly just to donate some bone marrow for Olivia, which saved Olivia's life. Wow. The other question that I was racking my brain and the internet over was, what was it that Drew was trying to tell Neil in that episode? What would be so important that would tear Drew away from Mamie's famous cinnamon rolls? I can't imagine. Well, surprisingly, I'm pretty sure it was because Drew was getting ready to tell Neil not to get his hopes up for a reunion between them. Like, when she came back to town, Neil thought that meant they were going to get back together and they could repair the relationship and the family. But Drusilla instead was hooking up with Malcolm on the side. Whoa! After all of those years, and after all of that liquidy cold medicine running up under that bridge, finally Drew and Malcolm were hooking up guilt-free. Even though they were able to make the physical connection, I guess they were not able to make it work emotionally. Drew ended up going back to Europe. Malcolm followed her for a little while, but then he came back to Genoa City and reported to us that it just didn't work out between them. Oh, what if it would have worked out between them, even for a little bit? Because a Drew and Malcolm hookup could have been pretty hot. And I'm sure it was hot at the time, seeing them actually hook up. But a Drew and Malcolm relationship never would be. I'm so glad that I finally got to see Nick and Sharon's sex tent in HD. Sure, the sex tent episode didn't really fit very well with the summer fun theme, but CBS had that 2001 episode on deck and they were not afraid to use it. They were gonna use it one way or another. That episode was supposed to air, of course, during Romance Week, so I talked about it in that Y&R Chat, but it turns out basically everyone got preempted that day, so I think maybe I, along with a few other Canadian viewers, might have been able to see it, but I only saw it because I had to hunt for it online, but after having seen it in HD, I feel totally reinforced in my decision to select Nick's Arabian-themed fantasy tent as my favorite romantic gesture from Romance Week. First of all, it was lush in there. There were a ton of silk and sheer curtains. There were these plush, fluffy pillows everywhere. It had very warm, romantic, dimmed lighting, and there were all of those gorgeous lamps and candles. I mean, yes, please, just yes. I am half considering packing up my house and going to live in the sex tent forever. Sex tent in the woods. There were no bugs in there. I feel reassured. I could tell that it was sealed tight. And it obviously had electricity because there were lamps hanging from the ceiling. So I'm in to live in the sex tent in the woods if I have to. I would so totally have played along. Like, I would have played it exactly how Sharon did. I would have had all of her same reaction to this. Like, I would have put on those outfits that Nick had made for them. I mean, he even had jewelry laid out for her. I mean, yes, there was the beautiful, like, silky, dressy, roby dress, but she also had the jewels. Like, she had the gold headband and the bracelets and the rings. And Nick looked adorkable. Definition of adorkable. Him there in his sultan of swing robe. They were so cute. And it was so romantic. And the food looked good too. Was the food supposed to be Turkish? I guess I feel a little bit hazy on that, but the servers came in with their large hats. They were wearing large hats, and I was thinking maybe it was Turkish. I guess I associate those 3-tier serving trays as Turkish, because I love Turkish serving trays and the platters and the coffee and tea sets. I mean, there's so much beautiful, like, metallic, like, dishware. And so I guess that's why I was thinking, but I don't know what the food was, but it was a feast of food, whatever it was. It was too much. It was like way too much. There's no way that 2 people could have eaten all of that food. And if they did, I wouldn't want to be trapped in a tent with them. I was legitimately surprised by my own reaction to seeing a newer episode on Friday. I had such a surprising sense of relief. Like, oh yeah, I remember the old reality. The one where Y&R is taking place in the same decade as it is right now. And I was surprised because a few weeks ago when they aired the Dina Sings Christmas Miracle Abbott Family Week episode, I found that disappointing for some reason. I don't know if it was too new or if I just, like, didn't want that new of an episode, but seeing everybody from just last summer, that was just July of 2019, it was super comfortable for me this time around. I was so at ease watching that episode. Devon and Elena were adorable, and I just, like, eased in. I just sunk in, like, it fit like a glove, and within a few minutes, I realized that I was just sitting there smiling, watching Devon and Elena being cute. It wasn't forced. It wasn't anything. I just sort of had this a moment of awareness of, like, I'm smiling and enjoying this. And I wasn't really expecting to. Devon had just lost his father, and he was trying to move forward with his life. No, in fact, he was choosing to move forward with his life as healthily as he could. And Elena had just moved into the penthouse. Devon was encouraging her to establish it as her home too. I thought that was great. I was very entertained by Drunk Summer. Was it really just a year ago that Summer was still sort of dating Theo while pretending that she wasn't in love with Kyle? In fact, she was trying to pretend that she hated Kyle, and also at the same time that she was totally okay with his relationship with the love of his life, Lola. I mean, Lola. Phyllis was there to comfort Summer. Phyllis was busy being the CEO of Dark Horse. You know, the whole Dark Horse versus Newman Enterprises, that was definitely getting ready to happen, right? Those two companies were just about to go head-to-head in an epic way, right? No, they didn't really. This Dark Horse just disappeared. So did the penthouse. Phyllis was about to get a penthouse. I cannot believe that we were promised all of that closet space and we never even got to see a peep. It just makes me mad all over again. So, I mean, basically what you're telling me is that the Grand Phoenix Hotel has a penthouse. It's there right now. It didn't disappear after construction. It's there. But both Phyllis and Abby still live in the regular hotel rooms? Come on! At least do 2 penthouses on top of that hotel, the way there's the 2 penthouses at the Newman Tower, or whatever it is, Devon and Adams. We need 2 more penthouses. We can rotate them fine. They don't have to be specific to, they can swap. It doesn't have to be specific to the character, but we need 2 more homes and a penthouse, fine. It's exhausting though. I was at ease watching some stuff, but there was also some things that were getting up under my skin. Also, last year at this time, Victor was sick. Thank goodness for those miracle treatments. Because he's totally better now. We don't acknowledge whatever that was that he had. Some sort of blood disease. Whatever. We don't even talk about that anymore. That went nowhere, did nothing. Well, no, I guess that's not exactly true. Gee, I sure hope nobody messes with Victor's medication and almost kills him. It's all coming back to me now. All of the angst is coming back to me now, and the ease is slowly melting away. Can you believe that it was just last year that Chelsea returned to town? That seems like forever ago. But just last summer, Nick and Chelsea were picking back up right where they left off. Except, oh yeah, she was married to Calvin. Good old Calvin. Gee, I missed him, and gee, I missed thinking about him. I think maybe the thing that I've missed the most about current Y&R is Calvin. Calvin was born to die. In fact, Calvin died in their hotel room, like as soon as they got back to it. He was dead by the end of that week. Calvin died right in front of Chelsea, but she had nothing to do with it. Except she probably did. I mean, she was obviously threatened by him. She had lied to him about she said she was going to a spa and said she was in Genoa City, and he tracked her down in Genoa City, followed her, and came in to try to take her back, I suppose. And Calvin had adopted Connor. He was like Connor's adopted father, supposedly really close with the child, and then for no apparent reason was wanting to give Connor back to Adam. Like, what? Surely Y&R was about to explain all of that any day now, right? No. No. That worried look that Chelsea had on her face as she looked back at Nick through the stained glass windows. Yeah, that turned out to be nothing. She was totally in love with Calvin. She just loved him and married him. And then he died. She was devastated. And then he left her a couple of $1 million to buy a hotel. And then she got back together with Adam. After she swore that she was done with Adam in that very episode that we saw. See, you cannot tell me that Y&R doesn't just make some of this up as they go along. I mean, maybe they used to plan out stories a year in advance. But I am telling you, I think half the time now they're just pulling it out of thin air. Baldwin Fisher Family Week is next. All right, yeah. More Gloria, more Michael, more Kevin, more Lauren. Yeah. We're going to get to see Michael and Kevin's early brotherly dynamic, getting to know each other again. We're going to see Gloria introducing John to her screw-up son, Kevin. After Kevin tried to kill John's granddaughter, Colleen. We're going to have Lauren announcing to Michael that she's pregnant with Finn. Plus, I think there's like a full Baldwin Fisher Family Christmas episode from 2016. But the episode that I am most excited about for next week is Kevin and Jana's ashram wedding. Yes. Oh, this is going to be cool. This is going to be a cool set. This is going to be a cool vibe. But that's not even the reason that I'm excited. It's not as much the wedding as it is what happened at the wedding, the big plot twist for the wedding, the officiator turns out to be, spoiler alert, Michael's long-lost dad, River Baldwin. I think his real name was like Lowell or something, but he changed it to River because now he was like this spiritual guru. Oh, I can't wait to see this. River was played by Michael Gross, who you'll recognize probably from most popularly from Family Ties. He played the father, but he was the perfect cast to play Michael's dad, River. The whole time he was on, he was having this kind of new age vibe. He was a spiritual guru, which was kind of cool. But in the end, he turned out to be a total con artist. It was a really nice touch, and I can't wait to see his face again. So many themes and so many theme weeks at this point. I think that Y&R is continuing to stick with the theme weeks because it allows them to show a variety of episodes from a variety of eras, and I think they're hoping to catch viewers who may have been watching at any of those points in time. But we're getting on in time. I mean, we're 3 months in, and we've mostly seen episodes from the 90s and the 2000s. We've had just a few episodes from the 2010s. We've had fewer episodes from the 80s, and still no episodes from the 70s. Not a single episode from the entire first decade that Y&R was airing. And I don't know if it's because those episodes are inaccessible in some way. I don't know if it's some practical reason that they're choosing not to rebroadcast, or if just there's something practical. They can't be reformatted. The film is lost. It's somewhere, I don't know. They'd have to do something to it. I don't know. Is that why they're choosing not to give us any of the episodes from the 70s? Or is it that the powers that be feel that the viewers would not be able to connect as easily with those early episodes because they're so much different from the show that it is now? I mean, we really start to see the show develop and we start to see the roots of what the show is today start kind of in the 80s, more so in the 90s, and it's very recognizable. The 80s episodes are recognizable, but I think the 70s episodes and the early 80s episodes probably even are difficult to, it's not the same as the show that we know. So is that the reason why we're not seeing anything from the 70s? It seems to me that a logical thing that they might want to try to do is air the show from the beginning, like from episode 1. And they're not doing that. At least for a week, air the show from episode 1. So I'd like to ask you guys this question. Let's say instead of a theme week, just instead of one of the theme weeks, if Y&R were to air the very first episodes from 1973, starting with episode 1, would you want to watch? Like, so let's say we start with episode 1 and 2 on Monday, because Y&R used to be a half-hour show. So could they do two episodes in a day on Monday, and then episodes 3 and 4 on Tuesday, and 5 and 6 on Wednesday, and so on, and we watch the show from the beginning for the first 2 weeks in place of a theme week? I think that would be really fascinating, but maybe that's a turnoff for other viewers. Would you want to watch those episodes, or do those older episodes not appeal to you at all? YRChat.com, that's our poll question for the week. Do you even want to see the first episodes? Are you in? Are you all in on the most classic of the classics? Or are you out? YRChat.com. Cast your vote. No phones, no faxes. It's a hard and fast rule for when you're taking a trip to the Caribbean. That was our quote from last week. No phones, no faxes. And it was Jack who said that to Ashley. He was talking about his beautiful, wonderful Caribbean trip with Lon that he was going to be taking. And he was looking forward to relaxing and taking no phones and no faxes. I thought that was a cute little 90s moment. And Jamie, Henry, Victoria, Mark, Ambreen, and Daisy, you guys all guessed that it was Jack. Here's another summary quote for a summer theme week. How about this? The more waves, the better. Who said it? The more waves, the better. If you think you know, you can go to yrchat.com to leave your guess. And if you get it right, then I will give you your shout out on next week's Y&R Chat. During Romance Week and this week, both times that I saw the Nick and Sharon Sextent episode, I wrote down a contender for the Who Said It quote, and it popped up during the original time I watched it, popped up this time when I watched it as just a funny line. Hey, look, clothes! Nick said it to Sharon. He just looked over in the corner and said, hey, look, clothes! I am surprised that Nick didn't make it a no clothes policy for the sextant. They were trying to mask what was going to go on in there. But I think we all know. Let's get to some of your comments. Jamie says, I love the nostalgia and I want Classic Friday. I think it's so good to remember the roots of the show, but I'm not even going to try to lie about it. I'm not even going to try to hide it. I got so excited when that flash of, is this a new episode came? I am ready and I'm here for it. Yes. I know. I agree. I felt surprisingly refreshed by seeing a new episode. The classics are great, but it is sort of like, oh yeah, this is what it used to be. I mean, something about real time or feeling like it's in real time that it's just hard to beat. Well, I mean, we got to get back to it sometime. Y&R, as far as I know, it's back in production, or at least they're trying to. And last week I asked you guys, how much change do you want to see when Y&R resumes production? I have to say, I'm a little surprised by this vote, because 46% of you said you want to see a lot of change on the show when they come back. You say the show needs a complete overhaul. Wow, 46%. Second place, the more middle of the road, people, 34% say they just want to see some changes, a few tweaks here or there, nothing major. And then 20% of you felt that you didn't want any changes, you just want to pick up right where we left off. Well, let's read some of your comments because there's some good ones. Tony voted to mostly just start over. Use the characters we have, bring back some that we've missed, and just create stories. Well, I agree with this, Tony. I mean, just create stories. I think a little bit, it does seem like that's sort of what's missing. And that's why it is frustrating watching the newer episodes. Because, you know, for instance, I'm looking at Calvin's coming on my screen and I'm going, oh, here's a new story. No, it was not. It was not a story. There was no story around Calvin. It was just this thing that happened. So, I mean, and there's a lot of instances of that. There's a lot of things that happen now, but they don't have really powerful or even sometimes cohesive stories or stories at all. So, I mean, I really would like to see the writing there. I want to see the writers step it up when they come back. I do agree with that. Lynn 4283 voted for a lot of change. Lynn says, the show The Young and the Restless needs a complete overhaul. They need equal airtime for all the characters, but especially the black characters. For example, Devon, Elena, Amanda, Nate, and Lily need their own storylines and not just supporting characters on the show. Oh, yes, Lynn. You know, I feel that the remaining members of the Winters family do get a decent amount of airtime, but they don't get story anymore. I don't know if it's specific to them or if it's everyone, but I mean, thinking about the Winters family, there's not a lot of story there. The characters are just kind of there. And honestly, all of these classic episodes have really highlighted that for me. Drew and Neil used to be lead characters. They were in the forefront of nearly every show. And I think that Y&R had an opportunity to recreate that for Hillary and Devon, but they didn't do it. And I don't think they're gonna do it now, especially not now. I think that Devon and Elena are nice, but nice isn't what the viewers want forever. I think we're going to need to see Elena break out soon, and I think we're going to need to see some story with substance for them soon. And again, it just all relates back to my appreciation of Victoria Rowell. I think Victoria Rowell was very much a champion for giving her character and the characters in her fictional family story with some substance. And I think that's something that it's almost impossible to argue against, that Y&R just hasn't done that. Speaking of Drusilla, Gary Garrison says, the evolution of Drusilla into this beautiful, sensitive woman who never lost the ability to boss everyone around and tell people off is really nicely done. Why Y&R never took her back, I don't know. I think I know. I mean, I think Y&R didn't take Victoria Rowell back because she has a big mouth. I think that Victoria Rowell was not spouting the company line. I think Victoria Rowell wanted to do stories that meant something. I think she wanted to do stories that were relevant. And I think that just started to clash with what the powers that be wanted. I think they want nice actors who are going to go out and be nice ambassadors of the show. But Victoria Rowell has a lot to say. She is a person who has opinions, and she wanted that to be injected into the show. I think Victoria Rowell had a lot more, in retrospect, had a lot more input on what stories were being done when she was on the show. I mean, we know for a fact that she initiated Devon's foster care storyline. That was something that she personally felt passionate about, and she was able to champion that for the show. I believe that she also had something to do with Devon's hearing loss storyline. So we know she was there trying to inject some substance into the storylines, and maybe just over time they went, no, that's not what we want. We want to do our own thing. Your job is to act, not to have input, which I think it's really sorely missed. I didn't see it at the time. I mean, I don't think I even quite appreciated what she, for instance, brought to the show at the time. It's only in retrospect where it's like, oh yeah, the show used to mean something. Oh yeah, the characters used to go through things. Oh yeah, there used to be stories. Whereas now it does feel like it's just a lot of, okay, well, this thing's happening. You know, it's a shame. I can see that the show has drifted significantly away from some of that, and maybe it's just part of the way sort of modern life took a turn. I don't know. I'm not sure, but I do think that the show used to be more about families. The Winters, the Newmans, the Abbotts, the Williamses. I mean, there were families, and they were at the core, and somewhere along the way, we definitely moved away from that. But I don't think it's so wrong to let the actors have some input on the show. I mean, I know that's not their jobs, but I don't know. There's a lot of good ideas out there. The fans have a lot of good ideas that it seems like never get incorporated. I mean, there's like great fan fiction for Y&R out there. There's a lot of chances. I don't know if maybe like Y&R was afraid to do anything because they didn't want to alienate anybody. I don't know. The show's a lot more safe now, in a way, and they really don't make big, bold moves. I voted that I would like to see a lot of change when Y&R resumes production. I really would. I would be okay if we wiped some slate and just came at this fresh and anew. I mean, I would be happy if we got some new writers. I mean, wait a year, it'll happen, but I'd be happy to have some new writers. I'd be happy to have some new eyes on the show. I'd like to see an overhaul. There are definitely some characters who I think could go. There's some characters who I think could come back. I just think there's so much potential for the show to be really rich and just to really have story and character and a good balance of both. And for instance, that episode that we saw last Friday was Sharon had mentioned was directed by Kay Alden. I always liked her. I liked the Kay and Sally days. That was a show where it was like the Paul and Isabella. That there was a story there. There was a plot there, but there was also characterization there. It's in many ways was kind of a perfect episode. It was just really, really something that stood out there. And I would be all in favor of making some drastic changes to get us there if need be. Kamna says, I hope the current writers have been watching the classic episodes. While I understand they can't necessarily bring old characters back, they can do such a great job of connecting new and current characters with their history. For example, given that Christine and Nina were besties, you'd think that Christine would have a special bond with Chance. Same thing with Lily and Nate. They grew up together. I thought the same thing, Kamna, when I saw little Lily and little Nate together in a scene, and I thought to myself, oh yeah, they grew up together. They would be really close right now, and they're not. It's like Y&R doesn't know what to do with anybody. They've got honestly, I think the cast is too big. I've said that before. I think they've got too many characters, and they don't do a good enough job of just focusing on who they are. It's like they're trying to please too many people, maybe? I don't know. I don't know why they're doing it. But Nate, I mean, come on. They've not come up with a story for Nate. He's been on the show for a year now. And they've not come up with anything of substance for him. He does nothing. He's dated he's done a couple datings. That's it. I mean, he might as well just be eye candy. They have done nothing for him. And Lily, they've brought her back. I like that they've got her working at Chancellor Industries. But, you know, I mean, they haven't done anything else with her. It's nothing real stand out. Yeah, and I mean, that's another good point, too. Gosh, there's so many. I think that Laura Lee Bell doesn't necessarily want to be on the show full time, but hey, throw the fans a bone and bring Christine back to interact with Chance. I love that idea. Victoria says, I would love some changes. Top of my list is to give Tracy Abbott a love interest pronto. She has been a minor character for too long. Give Beth Maitland the material, and she'll deliver another Emmy performance. Yes, Victoria, yes. I know, I was thinking about the carnival and how Tracy and Kane were at that carnival together. Oh, no, we better not. Oh, Kane, older lady dating a younger man. Oh, we better not. We just better not. That's an example of a story that they started, and you better believe they chickened out and pulled it back. That ain't no year of planning. That's them starting and going, oh, maybe that's not going to work. We'll just pull back. No, you need to pick something and commit to it and go with it. Yeah, don't get me started on all over again. But this is a great, Tracy and Beth Maitland are a really great example of this. I mean, you brought her back. She's become one of the most popular characters on the show. She's not a hot bod. She's not, just the eye candy. She's a good actress. She's been given material to work with. She's turning whatever they give her into gold, and she could do it again. I agree. And, and it doesn't even matter to me if it's a love interest for Tracy. I mean, I would like that very, very much. But give her more to do. Give the actors that we have who are so talented, give them something to act other than a romance. And maybe the fact that we're now in this post-coronavirus production world, maybe they're going to have no choice but to focus away from the Lovemakins and the Sexons, which are all fun and I love so much. But like, at the end of the day, you got to give me something else too. I love the eye candy, but I need a meal. Marianne V. voted for no changes to the show, saying, let's just continue where we left off. I don't want to see a time jump. I think the storylines that we have now should be finished first before trying to make Y&R better. Oh, wow, that's a good point. The only thing I would say is, dang, they've had a chance to make Y&R better. Josh Griffith has been the writer, the head writer, and executive producer. I mean, a lot falls on that guy. I know it always seems like I'm picking on him, but he's got a lot of power with the show right now. And he's had a year to make Y&R better. And we just still keep getting chicken bones at the Grand Phoenix, at Abby's new hotel construction site. Chicken bones. You giving me chicken bones? I do feel like if there's I appreciate your opinion, Marianne. I do. I'm a little bit of a different viewpoint on that, because I tell you, I think I am ready for some change coming back on, but I also appreciate the just the desire to, like, let's just finish what we got. Let's go back to that and see where we are. Sandra says, this is what I want from Y&R when they resume filming. I want to fall in love. I want to laugh. I want to be so engrossed in a storyline that I forget the world for 37 minutes each day. I know they can do it, but will they? Oh, Sandra, that's such a good comment. I want to be engrossed. I want to forget the world for 37 minutes. I have to say, I have felt very engrossed by the classic episodes. There is something, and I think maybe it's because they're a little longer. I just sink in, and I'm just there. I tell you that the episode from Friday, I just blazed through it. 36 minutes, 37 minutes. I was done with that episode in lickety-split. It took me no time. It's so digestible. And maybe that's why we end up sacrificing story for that. I mean, for crying out loud, it's 12 minutes longer back in the day. They had 12 more minutes to develop on stuff, but you can't be so afraid to make some choices and write some stories and make some decisions. I think you can't, not everything needs to be a Lunchable, Balance. Well, Sherrod says, it seems, based on a few leaks from behind the scenes, that the show will be tweaked. It's rumored that due to the pandemic and required social distancing, that in order for the show to have any sort of romantic interaction, they are trying to find a way to use real-life partners of the actors. Hence, Sharon and Adam might become a couple, Tessa and Fen. And of course now Devon and Elena, they're staying together, but I don't know how they could put Mariah with Noah. They're currently playing sister and brother. Oh well, for now, let's just hope for some new shows. Oh, okay. Well, see, I gotta, if I say I'm ready for change, then I gotta be ready for change, because there's a part of me that's gonna be upset if we just come back onto Y&R and Sharon's just with Adam, just cause. I'm at least gonna need them to explain it, and it better be good. They better come up with something good for it. But you know what? I forgot, Sherrod, that that Tessa, Kate Fairbanks, and the guy who plays Fen, and I can't think of his name. I forgot that they are a real life couple. Tessa and Fen are a real life couple. I don't want to see them together though. I don't want to throw Mariah and Tessa completely out the window. It's like the one story that Y&R did and developed and decided to stick with. Although they didn't do it all that well, they did decide, we're gonna do this lesbian storyline and we're gonna screw it up all over the place, but we're gonna do it. And I at least gotta respect that. They at least picked a direction and they stuck with it. So I'll be definitely disappointed if they got to do that now. I don't know. That's kind of disappointing to me. I'd almost rather have limited romantic interactions than to force people together just because they're a real life couple. I don't know. The story, it has to be a balance of story too. Boy, what a shame. What a disaster it's going to be for them trying to go back and deal with all this. Man, I don't envy that position. They are in a pickle. Ugh. But I'm all for new shows, but I do hope the quality's gonna be there. I hope it's gonna make sense and be good. Ellen says, I fear that Y&R will assume their many wins at the Daytime Emmys to mean that no change is needed. They had the fewest nominations and the most wins. The writers need much more consistency. They need to map out a story that they believe in and stick to it. Yeah, I think so too. I agree. I think that they've gotten validation from the Emmy wins, and I think that I don't think they think they're doing anything wrong. And Y&R Chat and me and us are not the majority of fans. I mean, I can guarantee you that. Like, me and my voice and what we talk about we're not being listened to at all. Not one iota. I think they think they're doing great. And obviously they're getting applause and accolades for it, so why should they change? I mean, from that perspective, right? I mean, the ratings are the only thing that matter, and I guess they're good? I don't know. And Brittany says, the show did have nice sets this year and some good stuff. The whole thing around Kristoff's death was well done, and the Carnival set won a well-deserved Emmy. No doubt. I mean, I am not a believer in throwing out the baby with the bathwater. There's good here. I think they did do the best with a heartbreaking situation when it came to Kristoff's death. And yeah, I mean, that carnival was awesome. I mean, like, that carnival was awesome. It rivaled some of the other fun stuff. It rivaled the sex tent. Like, it rivaled the pool parties. Like, the carnival was perfect. So, yeah, I need to get in here and make sure I'm complimenting the things about the show that are good. It's just tough because I'm watching these classics, and sometimes I struggle because it's like, dang, I really preferred this style. I wish that this would get incorporated. I wish it was this again, which is such an old lady and old grumpy fan thing to say, and I don't want to be that. So please don't take it that way. But, you know, we got some constructive criticism, but we got to make sure we talk about what's good. And here's something that's good. Ellen says, Theo, I miss you. Now there's a character that let me know it's 2020. Well, 2019, when life was more normal. Now I'm looking forward to more Theo on my screen someday. Yes, Theo is one of the best things they've done. He is one of the best casting choices, I think, that they have made recently. They have done a good job of developing his character. They told us who he was. They told us where he was from. They've shown evolution for him. I mean, Theo is something that this team did right. And I hope they continue to do that. Lisa115 says, it will be really strange, in a good way, to watch when the new episodes resume. The classic episodes have reminded me of several storylines I had forgotten or missed over the years. Since most of the characters will be in the new episodes, I will have a new or renewed familiarity with them. Looking forward to that aspect of the new shows. Yes, Lisa, I mean, thinking about what our current characters have been through, that's something that we can now relate to the current story, whatever it will be when we get back to our new episodes. Zuperplex says, I wonder when Y&R returns, will Eric Braeden be relegated even more to the periphery? Zuperplex. I kind of am assuming that maybe what you mean is that because he's one of the, I guess he would be probably considered high risk for contracting this illness. Maybe you're wondering if he's kind of play a smaller role because of that. I mean, one thing I will say, the only thing I've seen this week, and I didn't dig really, really deep, but I checked my sites, about the only thing I've seen about resuming production came from Eric Braeden. There was a picture of him standing on set next to one of the producers. I don't remember who it was, but they were both standing there in their masks, and it sounded like maybe they were getting ready to do their testing so that they could get back on the set. There also was a video that Eric Braeden posted. I guess he had climbed up he'd run up some insane amount of steps. Like in Rocky, he ran up some steps and someone was at the top filming him being physically fit and physically able and feeling good. So, that's a positive sign. Eric Braeden is in good shape. I mean, he's in better shape than I am. And I'm almost half as young as he is, and he's in better shape than I am. So, I mean, I don't know. He strikes me as the kind of guy that's not gonna let that happen. In a way, I feel like Eric Braeden is gonna be like, no, I'm not gonna let you relegate me to the periphery. I want to be here. I'm Victor Newman. I belong here. Diana says, the park set used to be so much better than it is today. When Victor and Nikki were walking at the park and there were the big trees that looked real, and you could even see the cars in the parking lot in the background. It was very realistic looking. Today, the park looks pretty cheesy, I'm sorry to say. There's this big wall around the park that looks like it's made from lattice. Today's park scenery feels like the characters are indoors, whereas the old sets really gave the feeling and illusion of a natural outdoor environment. Yeah, and when I originally read your comment, Diana, I thought you said that the walls around the park look like it's made from lettuce. Not lattice, but it might kind of look like it's made from lettuce too. And the park sets are usually my favorite. I mean, I really like and appreciate the outdoor sets, but I agree there was something more natural about the other ones. I like the Rose Garden one. That was a pretty good one. That's in the newer era, but yeah, I think that you almost do get you feel like you're on a soundstage a little bit more, maybe. Well, hot topics, and let's end on this. Daisy says, I liked Catherine's hairstyle on Monday in the 1990s show, but on Wednesday's 2000 show, Catherine's hairstyle did not seem flattering. It was very spiky. I did like her short hair, though. That would be another interesting show for Y&R. Hairdressers and their hairstyles through the years. That would be fun to see. Oh, Lord, I noticed this too. Yeah, on Monday, oh my gosh, when when Billy was apologizing to Catherine and she was just sitting casually at her house, she looked so good. She looked so calm. She looked rejuvenated, almost as if she'd had a facial rejuvenation recently. But her hair was good, outfit was good, face was good, just looking healthy. And then, yeah, on Wednesday when she went to Paul's office to talk about Mackenzie's paternity and Jill looking into that, the hair was not right. It was short and spiky, and I just didn't want to be the one to say it first, so I'm going to let Daisy take the heat on that one, because it wasn't good. Okay, everybody, let's put a pin in it for this week. I've gotten it all out. Now it's your turn. Go to yrchat.com to leave me your comments. Let me know if you're at all interested in those 70s episodes. Can't help but being curious as to why we're not seeing those. And I look forward to reading your comments and coming back next week and chatting again about Baldwin and Fisher Week. Baldwin Fisher Family Week. I think that's going to be a good one. I mean, hey, any excuse to get Michael Baldwin on my screen makes me happy. So I'll be smiling a lot next week, I have a feeling. Plus, a dash of Gloria. Yeah. Next week's going to be a good one. Summer Fun was maybe, I mean, there's the episodes by the pool. Those were like awesome and exactly what I needed. Sextant didn't exactly fit the theme. The Glow by Jabot party was a little bit of a flop. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot going on there till the end. And the Carnival was great. So, I mean, like, I would say 3 out of the 5 episodes were definitely, I would classify as summer fun, but guaranteed 5 out of the 5 episodes for next week are gonna be Baldwin Fisher fun, so I'm in. I'll see you guys next Sunday, okay? All right. Bye.